Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our next webinar in the four-part MFG Day series. My name is Jen White. I am the Director of Student Engagement at the Manufacturing Institute and lead MFG Day efforts on the national scale. So excited to have a couple guests with us today as well to share with you. Today we're focusing on making the most of your event. We're going to share a couple kind of best practice activities, give them an opportunity to share what they do for Manufacturing Day, how it has maybe evolved over time as well, and then talk a little bit about building relationships with schools and how do we engage kids and whatnot. And then you'll have time to ask some questions of them if you would like to. So for those of you, this may be your first webinar. Thank you for joining us. Remember that all of the webinars are recorded, and all of those recordings can be found on mfgday.com under the resources tab. So if you haven't seen those, please go back and catch up on those as well. But just kind of a reminder of what is MFG Day and why do we do it? How do we make sure that it's impactful? So ultimately, this is the manufacturing industry's greatest annual opportunity for us to come together as an entire manufacturing community to really spark interest, if you will, to show students maybe things that they never knew existed in manufacturing. We talk a lot about needing to change perceptions, but the reality is many students may not even just have any awareness about manufacturing. So we're doing both of those things. The goal is really to show them firsthand what manufacturing maybe looks like. Sometimes that might be through a facility tour, but as you're going to learn today, there's many different ways to be able to do that. We want to show the diversity of the careers that are available in manufacturing. So not just focusing on what we may think of the most with the plant floor, with maintenance and production operators and those types of things, but really showing them that there is a place in manufacturing for everyone, regardless of what their interests and aptitudes may be. We want to show that manufacturing is cool, that it's high tech, that it's sustainable, safe, essentially, and everywhere. And then we want to think that as we're talking about students, the younger we get, manufacturing is going to look very different when they're ready to go into the workforce than what it may look today, too. So we want to keep that kind of future piece in mind as well. Looking at the growth opportunities, the pay and the benefits that may exist with a career in the industry. And finally, that MFG Day empowers us to, again, really come together to collect to work on what we know is this collective challenge that everyone is faced with. We're going to continue to be faced with it in the future. And through MFG Day and building awareness, we're going to start to shrink that gap as well. So just a couple key reminders. Some of you may have seen this before, but I like to just keep reiterating it because it is important. So mfgday.com is the digital hub for all things resources, again, webinar registration, webinar recordings. If you need logos, those are all free for you to use. You can find those under the marketing toolkit. Make sure that you are posting on social media. You can start sooner than MFG Day too to start using these things, but we do encourage everyone this year to use the hashtag MFGDay24 as well as the Creators Wanted hashtag. And then if you happen to be using the old logo, if the logo that you have does not look like the one on the screen right now, it's time to update. And again, all of those new logos are found on the marketing toolkit. Please register your events on mfgday.com. We have significantly improved or made easier that registration process for you. But this allows us to show all the wonderful things that are happening across the country and how it is truly a community effort. And then mfgday@nam.org. That's your go-to email address if you need any support, if you want to talk, ask some questions, anything of that nature. So just, again, a couple things to remember. So again, today we're talking about events. What do they look like? What are some of our successful past hosts? What have they been doing? What are they doing this year even maybe? But remember, there is no one size fits all for MFG Day events. You have to make it work for you, for your facility or company, for your target audience. And it may not even be on MFG Day. That's okay. While we're going to celebrate it on October 4th this year, any day is manufacturing days, as long as you're working towards those goals of, again, building awareness, educating students, parents, teachers, community leaders about the realities of careers in modern manufacturing. So you can do individual events at your site. And you can also do community-based events out at other sites. Maybe even outdoors, could be indoors somewhere. You can do a company family day where you celebrate your employees, you let them bring in their family members, and they get to show off what they do all the time and how impactful it is to your local community and to their family. So there's a variety of things. Again, these are listed on mfgday.com. If you look under the resources tab, we have a host toolkit that breaks out a lot of these different types of events that you can do. So check that out. But without further ado, I'm going to do less talking today and let our guests do more of it. So first, I would like to introduce Sarah Hanaway, who is the Workforce Development Talent Strategy Manager at BAS in Geismar, Louisiana. So Sarah, over.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be with y'all today. And thank you to Jen and the Manufacturing Institute for including BASF in this opportunity. So, if you're not familiar with BASF, we're a global chemical company. We have manufacturing and research and development facilities all around the globe. Here in North America, we have over 100 manufacturing and R&D facilities. And our largest facility is in Geismar, Louisiana, where I have the privilege of working. And we make all kinds of products, as I'm sure many of you do if you're in this industry. And we're located in the industrial corridor in Louisiana, about 60 miles from New Orleans. So there's a lot of industry in our area, a lot of people who work in manufacturing. But as we have looked at, our sort of our pipeline of talent over the years and the programs that we already offer, we have identified some gaps. And so, what I'm going to talk about today is one area or one gap that we identified that I think, based on how the event went last year, is really making an impact on our local community and then also on the students who participated. So, as we jump into my slides, I named this Partnering for Impact because our event that we hosted last year was not only a BASF event. I mean, we were very involved. We were one of the sponsors. We helped plan it, but this event would not have happened without our community partners. And so, specifically, who I'm talking about here is our local community college. So, River Parish's community college is the community college of choice for BASF. It's where a lot of our future operators, our future instrument techs, get their training, get their degrees before they come and work for us. And so, very, very important partner to us, but also to our local community. And so, as we started meeting with the community college and really thinking about, okay, what do we want to do for Manufacturing Day? We haven't really done anything big. And maybe nothing official at all for Manufacturing Day in our area. And so, at the beginning, the sky was the limit. We could do this, we could do that. There's, so many things that, so many creative ideas that our team was coming up with. And then we thought about it, and we were 8 weeks away. So scary, right? Like if you're trying to plan a big event and you only have 8 weeks, what's realistic? And so we thought about the programs that already exist in our community. So we have a lot of programs for elementary school children related to STEM and making that connection to manufacturing. We have a lot of programs for high schoolers, but where we're really missing an opportunity is in middle school. So we decided to tackle middle school. And at first, we were very pie in the sky thinking, and there were about 3,000 middle schoolers that we thought we would invite. And then reality set in, and we were like, okay, we can't do all of them, but what age would make sense? And so we picked 8th grade. So in Louisiana, the way our school system is set up, once students start in 9th grade, they're really choosing either to go down a 4-year degree path when they get out of high school, or they're making the choice to start working immediately when they graduate from high school, which is a big decision to make in 9th grade, right? I know when I was in 9th grade, if I picked something, I probably would not be doing that now. But so what we want is for our students, our local students, to know what their choices are, be informed, so that they can make the best decision possible. And that's, of course, not to say that when they graduate, they can't go in a different direction, but we want them to be as informed as they can be, their parents to be as informed as they can be. And so we picked middle school. So I'm proud to share that through this event, we had around 500 8th graders from our local school system participate. These are all public school students. And in our area, private school is a big deal. So a lot of parents who can send their kids to private school do. And then public schools are a little bit different. And so we really wanted to offer this to public school students so they would have this opportunity. We worked really closely with our local school system. So another community partner that was involved was that school system, and we have representatives from the system on our committee, really to make this happen. Transporting 500 students, getting permission slips for them to attend, getting permission slips for us to take pictures of them, all of those things takes a lot of coordination and effort. And again, we would not have been able to do this without our school system partners. In addition to that, we had over 50 volunteers who supported the event. So that includes the teacher volunteers who came with the students, the companies that participated and the people who came along with them, the RPCC, the community college staff volunteered for that day. And so again, this was a big undertaking, and we had a small committee, but we had so many people supporting us day of to make sure this event was a success. So as we move into the next slide, in addition to BASF, there were 9 other industry partners that volunteered that day, who brought their tents, brought their table setups, and they offered STEM activities for the students. And we don't do a ton of this kind of stuff, surprisingly, in the industrial corridor. And so we had to have a lot of conversations with our industry partners about, okay, what kind of activities can you do with middle schoolers? Because we wanted it to be educational, hands-on. And if any of you have ever worked with middle school age children, I have a 5-year-old and his attention span is very short. Same thing for middle schoolers. They want something that's exciting, engaging. And if they don't get that, they get bored. And we don't want a bunch of eighth graders getting bored, right? So we talked a lot about that with the industry partners, and all of us showed up ready to engage with middle school students, and it was so much fun. Among the industry partners and the community college, we offered 19 different activities. Some of those are related to the classes that a student would take if they go to the community college. This particular campus of the college has a fully functioning manufacturing plant. So a few years ago, BASF was able to help the college build that, construct that. And so most people, when we think about changing the perception of manufacturing, or helping the community really see what manufacturing looks like and feels like and sounds like, it's hard to do that, right? We can't bring everybody into the plant to do tours. And so what this plant does at the college is offers that kind of peek behind the gates of what is it really like? What does it really sound like? How big are these plants? And so all of the students that day were able to put on their hard hats, put on their ear protection, their hearing protection, and walk into the plant and climb the stairs and see what it's really like to work within a manufacturing facility. And we received excellent feedback on that part, in addition to all of the other activities that were offered throughout the day. So I think next we're going to show a highlight video from the day, so y'all can all get a little taste of what it was like. So Jen, can you hit play on that?
Today is National Manufacturing Day. I'm thrilled because I've already been able to see our students from Ascension Parish experiencing some wonderful opportunities for their futures.
Coming out and seeing firsthand what careers are like in modern manufacturing is a difference maker in helping propel students to choose their own future. Because after all, students can't be what they can't see, and these are great family supporting jobs.
This is the beginning of a renaissance for the manufacturing industry, but most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, this is a renaissance for the people of Southeast Louisiana and the students and communities that we serve right here in the River region. And that renaissance starts with collaboration.
And that's why opening the door to facilities like this, showing them a physical plant like this, and showing them the training opportunities they have, that these careers can be theirs when they achieve the skills that we need in today's modern manufacturing.
I will tell you it's through these kids and it's through the efforts like this with RPCC that I know that future is going to be more sustainable and it's going to be very bright.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So, in addition to the event for students, last year we also hosted with the Manufacturing Institute an event for media and local stakeholders like government officials, business and industry leaders. And so, in addition to engaging with the youth in the future workforce, we were also able to share, what's going on in manufacturing right here in our local community with the people who have an ability to help us, right? So when it comes to our government officials, helping them understand what we're doing, how that affects the people they represent, and making those connections for them, and how we're making people's lives better because of manufacturing, the products we make, as well as the jobs that we offer. So I've attended these kind of webinars in the past, and that's actually how I got excited about MFG Day. And it took a few years for us to actually host an event, having the right resources, the right people in place. And so what I always wanted to know was, okay, how do you do it? And so let's get into that a little bit. So last year was our first year doing this event. We started off with a bang, we were kind of like go big or go home. So we had a really big event. And thankfully it worked well. I think what worked well for us was the early identification of partners for the planning team. So making sure we had the right people in the room to talk about the details. So that it meant bringing in the right people from the community college, the right people from the school system, and then of course our team from BASF. And then engagement with our industry partners in the community. So this event would not, I think, it would not have been what it was if we had not had our industry partners at the table. BASF is one of many companies in our community that will have jobs for these students whenever they graduate from high school. And so we wanted them to have the opportunity to participate as well. And then as far as the community goes, it's the community college, right? It's the community's college. And a lot of people in our community have not been to this campus. And so this was an opportunity for these students to come to campus, as well as their teachers. Their parents could come as chaperones. And so it was an opportunity for them to see where they could advance their education without leaving their own community. Leadership from our community college partner was invaluable. So you heard in the video, you heard his voice. I don't think we saw his face, but the chancellor of the college was there, very, very involved, and really, I think, helped pull us all together to make this happen. And I encourage y'all, if you do this, to make sure that leadership of whatever partners are involved are engaged and understand the importance of this kind of event. Another thing that worked well is that we had a lot of volunteers. I already shared that, we had over 50 volunteers. And not only did we have a lot of volunteers, but they had specific jobs. So sometimes having a lot of volunteers can be a bad thing. I used to work in nonprofit, and we would respond to disasters. And sometimes we would call that the disaster after the disaster when you had all these people coming in, but they didn't know what to do. And so we were very intentional about setting up specific jobs for volunteers, letting them know ahead of time what they would be doing, where to go, who to call if there was an issue, so that day of everything was seamless. We also had a comprehensive communications plan. And what I mean by that is external communication, so inviting the media to attend the event, social media posts planned out ahead of time, a news release after the event sharing what we did. And so, that is just supporting, right? So you can have a great event, but if nobody knows about it, you're losing an opportunity. So that worked well for us. And then leaning on the MFG Day resources. So the toolkit that MFG Day and Manufacturing Institute offers is really helpful, utilizing the logos and the other creative assets that exist. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You don't have to come up with a new logo. It already exists. So use what's there. So do you want me to, should I answer questions, Jen, as we go? I see a few have come in.
I defer to you if you want to.
Okay, so I'll just answer a couple. So how did we schedule the students? We just worked with the school system and asked them how to do it. How do we make this work? And they figured it out. They were able to cover transportation for the students as just a typical field trip, but that is something that we, BASF, would have paid for them. We actually pay for transportation for another opportunity for elementary school students, so that's how we would handle it. We pay, BASF was a sponsor, so sponsorships are a big part of MFG Day, in my opinion. If you're gonna do a big event like this, and if you want to have T-shirts, if you want to have food, which we did have, if you want to, we rented tents because it's hot in Louisiana in October, and we needed a shady place, for the students to sit and have lunch. So this year, and maybe we'll get into this in the next slide, we're going to add additional sponsors so that it's not just a BASF event. We don't want this to be just BASF because we are one piece of a bigger puzzle in industry. Let's see. Okay, so I think we can go to the next slide. So these are just a few examples that we use. So we had a map that we provided to all of the volunteers, all of the industry partners, and all of the teachers. So they knew where everything was located, including bathrooms, the medical area, the eating area, kind of everything we could think of to offer, we put on the map. In addition to this map, we had a separate map for bus drivers. And so we had a very kind of organized way for the buses to come in, what times they were supposed to be there, exactly where they should go, where they could park if they were going to stay. So in addition to this map, we had that. And then on the right side of the screen, the spreadsheet, the table, that was our rotation of groups. So with 500 students, getting them all in, all fed, all through all the activities was kind of a beast. And thankfully, we work in an industry with people who are really good at figuring out complicated things or complex things. And so we created a schedule to maximize the time that the students would be able to spend in the activities. And then in the bottom left corner, that's something that the Manufacturing Institute, you can download stuff from the website to create graphics. We printed out signage so that people would know where to go whenever they arrived to campus. The campus that we were on is not huge, but it can be confusing on where to go. So we wanted to be really clear for the students and teachers and all of our other guests of where to go. And then in the bottom right, I included the agenda for the media event that we hosted, and then also an example of an email that we sent out to partners so that y'all could just, if you want to copy and paste, please feel free to do that. And I think afterwards in the follow-up email, Jen is going to send out some links to some other examples that you can use. Okay, so Chelsea, to answer your question, so we, BASF, and a lot of our industry partners work really closely with the community college. I mean, I'm talking with them probably once a week already. And this is something that we have been talking about doing for the last several years. We also have a relationship with our public school system. So we kind of already had those relationships in place. but they also have a relationship with the community college. And so we were able to just call everybody in for a meeting, say, this is what we're wanting to do. Do you want to be part of it? Right. We needed to make sure that the school system supported this and that they could do it. Thankfully, they said yes. And then with industry partners, they did help with communication to our industry partners. So they have a list of partners who do training at the college or who support the college financially through sponsorships, scholarships, things like that. And so they were able to communicate with the industry partners directly. Okay, and the next slide. So how do we plan to improve this year? We want to start planning earlier, a whole lot earlier. So 8 weeks is a very short time to pull together an event of this size. So we've started already. We've had our first meeting already to talk about what we want to do, and we're going to start our kind of regular cadence of planning meetings in the next few weeks. And what we want to do differently this year is identify the most important activities that we want the students to experience. So last year we had around 19 activities for them to do, and they were all fun. And some of the students didn't get to participate in some of the activities that they wanted to participate in because of the limited amount of time. And so I think what we're going to do, or what we've discussed doing this year, is to have, our 4 most important, or whatever the number is, that every student will do. And then we'll have additional things like with our industry partners that we'll set up some sort of like scavenger hunt experience or a passport experience that they can go around, do those activities with industry partners, and then win a prize for completing whatever that is. So I think it's a good thing that the students were a little upset that they didn't get to do everything, because that meant we picked the right things, and they were excited about it. And so this year we just want to, I guess, do a better job on our end of organizing things differently so that they can experience those things that they really enjoyed. And then what we also want to do this year is extend our messaging about MFG Day throughout the month of October. Whether that's through additional social media posts. Maybe I took a note earlier on this meeting, the live creator interviews. I think that's a really interesting opportunity to get people showcase our manufacturing employees. And I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately in meetings. We're all corporations, or we're all companies, but we're made up of people, right? And so we really want to highlight the people who work in manufacturing, who are making these products that we all use, and really helps make our lives a lot better. So must-haves for us for a great event include having hands-on engaging activities. And I mentioned that earlier with this age group, and I think with any age group for K through 12, it has to be hands-on. It has to be engaging, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated. And so the activity that BASF did that day was just building towers out of dry spaghetti, uncooked spaghetti, and marshmallows. And it was a competition. These kids loved competing against each other, and they weren't even winning a prize, right? They just had 5 minutes to build the tallest structure that could stand, and they loved it. Another company did kind of a team building activity, and I wanted to ask the guy if he was like a camp counselor in a previous life, because he was so good with kids, but he worked for an industry partner. I would also suggest having a very organized plan leading up to and the day of the event. We were kind of building this as we went. So now we have a plan that we can follow. Last year we didn't really have a solid plan going into it. So there are a lot of things that probably would have been much easier had we had a plan going into it. But we were able to pull it off. And then the day of the event, we did have a very organized plan. And I think that is what made it work for us. And then lastly, it has to be fun, whatever that looks like. I think we had music playing. We had snow cones for the kids. We had really engaged volunteers who made it fun for them, because we want them to know that manufacturing is fun, right? I mean, yes, it's serious. Yes, we're working, in our case, with chemicals that, if not used properly, could be a problem, right? And so we want them to understand that, yes, it's serious. Yes, you have to take your role seriously, but also it is a lot of fun and it is engaging and it is kind of what, as a middle schooler, what you like to do. You can translate that into a career after high school. So Tina says she's assuming these activities completed were related to the positions in the facility or skills related to those positions. I would say generally yes. I mean, they weren't necessarily, like we have a lot of we weren't doing necessarily engineering, but some of those skills leading up to. So things like, okay, how do we work together to solve a problem? How do we work together to build, in our case, build a tower? You saw in the video that there was some virtual reality. So what, showing them maybe what the plant looked like, or having them walk through like a DCS system that sort of looks like a game. But anything that I think that sort of relates to STEM in general and kind of the mindset of STEM is what we were focused on.
Can I add to that real quick too, Sarah? One of the other things is you saw all of the community college programs, they had stations set up too. So that's really where the kids got more technical into the careers that align into industry as well. They got to really mess with some of the controls, and they were doing CAD drawings and all different kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And on that note, we tried to pair a BASF employee with the community college partner. So like for the plant in that part of the activity, we had an operator with them talking about what they did as an operator in the plant. And for the instrumentation and controls, we had an instrument tech working with the kids. So they were able to kind of connect, okay, this is what you would learn in school, and this is how we use that in the plant. So that's all I have for now. I'll turn it over.
Awesome. Thank you. And we may have some time at the end for more questions too. So if something comes up, feel free to put them in the chat or hang on to them for later. So next, I would love to introduce Marzelle Brown, who is the manager of IoT engineering and academic enablement at Rockwell Automation, to talk about what they do for MFG Day.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Thanks, Sarah, for your presentation as well. And we'll dive in. So I'm not sure if people are familiar or not, but Rockwell is a B2B company, right, behind the scenes. I'm old enough to remember the BASF commercials about, we don't make the cassette tape, we make it sound better. We're similar in that mindset that a lot of industry will leverage what we provide for their companies to be successful. And, they said academic enablement. So I sit in the academic organization at Rockwell. I spent many years in the quality and hardware and software groups, but in the last few years, they've created a role where we're focused on education in industry. So this is just kind of part of our DNA as well. So you can switch slides for me and we'll dive in, because I know we're going to be tight for time. And so just part of our mission, if you look at the company's mission, is around access, it's around equity, it's around our community. That's just built into the actual mission of the company. And so doing Manufacturing Day is something that Rockwell has been doing for a long time in our own local facility in Cleveland, Ohio. And that looked like, bringing in 2 to 3 schools, walking through the entire manufacturing processes, having a couple of people talk to them. And it was a really cool thing that we did every year. We kind of patterned it after Engineers Week, because we do Engineers Week as well in February. So it was a little easier to do that. And then this pandemic hit, and it created a little bit of a challenge, because when you're an essential company, they didn't want anybody in the building because they didn't want anybody to get sick, right? Well, I had just recently got appointed to the board at the Great Lakes Science Center, which is in Cleveland. And I'm noticing that they were still letting students in their building. And so I approached them with a proposal that we bring Manufacturing Day to the Science Center, since they had already figured out how to get students in and out safely around the pandemic. But I added a little bit of a twist this one, and I asked, can we have other companies come along with us? So all these other board members, they represent places like Lincoln Electric and Sherwin-Williams and PPG and St. Cobain and Timken and Cat. So it was a real easy lift to ask, can you all come as well on this journey? Since we had been doing this in the past, it was easy for our staff at Rockwell to host a couple sessions and show other companies kind of like how we had done this and how they could come up with activities that were hands-on. They had to be hands-on, they had to be fun. Students had to be engaged with what they did at each one of these stations. And so this will be our 4th year doing Manufacturing Day at the Great Lakes Science Center. We start planning in April. We've already sold out for October already. And the thing about some of the questions, and we'll dive a little deeper later, but every company has a partnership with at least X number of schools. So that made it a little easier to invite all of those schools to the Science Center for the event. We have a relationship with Cleveland Public Schools, which is in Northeast Ohio. And that was a little, we can quickly say, hey, school X, Y, and Z, we're just moving over to the Science Center. Let's switch slides and I'll finish at the end on my 3rd one. And so what I do is do a little bit of a walkthrough of what the structure of the day looks like for us. Before I forget, Rockwell, at each one of these events, we personally have over 100 volunteers from Rockwell alone at Manufacturing Day. And there's at least 200 or so in total from all of the companies to show that support, which is just crazy. It's really nice. And you'll understand why the number of volunteers as we get through. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of activities that we did personally for the event. So we have 4 activities this year, just as Rockwell. And one of them was around augmented reality and virtual reality, something we do every day, our customers use every day. So we gamified an augmented reality experience for the students to be able to go through. And so basically they had some boxes, as you can see in the top left octagon there, that there's candy under one of those boxes. So there's a product under one of those boxes, but the person holding the iPad has no idea which one it is and where it's at. But at that table back there, there's another person sitting there and they have the key to where it's located and they know how to get them there. So through augmented reality, they can walk them through getting to that prize. And then we'll stop and we'll talk about why that's important in industry and how they can leverage it. And that app is free. They can download it and use it at home. We talk about real world applications around working on a sink or something at home. And what's kind of cool is when that student navigates away from the maze, all of the icons and arrows go away. But when they line back up with their particular maze, it all shows back up. And we talk about, okay, now you know, but why is it important to have a set in the destination and the most efficient way to get there? And so they get that. Below that, we do something called the challenge room. We can't call it panic room because we have to be sensitive to people and students and all of that. And it's using our products. And so there's a cookie factory that's been hacked by cyber folks, and they have to figure out how to unhack that factory with some quiz questions and things they have to go through, some toolboxes and all kinds of stuff to get that unlocked. And they do, and they can kind of get it out. Helps touch on some of the products that we offer to industry, and they can learn about that. Then on the bottom right is around robotics. And so Rockwell is one of the largest supporters of FIRST robotics across globally. And so we'll have actually the students from FIRST, our high school students, actually run that activity for us. And it teaches the other students how to program robots. There's some mazes and challenges they have to go through. And then we'll talk about robotics in the real world and how that works with industry. And so they'll go through that. Every company will have these types of activities. I didn't want to highlight any other companies in our presentation, but they all have these activities. And then we'll go to one more slide here, and I'll talk about the other part of what we do with Manufacturing Day, and that's career exploration. So we have a career fair style area that's at the top left over there. So every company and all our local 2- and 4-year institutions and in some educational extensions like Magnet, which is in Northeast Ohio, will exhibit, and they'll talk about careers and opportunities right to work if they're going right to work, or to 2 and 4 institutions around advanced manufacturing. And that's the other part. We're really spending the whole day demystifying manufacturing. The bottom piece there is a presentation that we do. So Rockwell is a key sponsor. So one of our executives will do a 15-minute presentation about manufacturing, about them personally, and talk about their career and their journey to get into manufacturing. And then the bottom right is what we call an early career. It used to be an early career panel, and then we turned it into bingo because some of the feedback was that we wanted the kids to be interactive. It's called early career because the people that are presenting are early career. They're young, and they're talking to students around all of these different topics of manufacturing. So it gives the student some one-on-one time with other folks that are closer to age to them to talk about manufacturing. And then in the center photo, for the first 2 years, the folks from Columbus came up and gave out proclamations to every organization that participated. And this is at the Great Lakes Science Center. So in the center there, that is the CEO of the Great Lakes Science Center. And I'll be honest, they are a tremendous partner. There's no way we could pull this off without having a partner like them, who they run camps every year, right? So they got an idea around what does a camp look like. They are an extension of schools in Northeast Ohio, so they know how to reach out to the schools as well. And they have tons and tons of guests in their building every day of the year. So that's a really nice way that we tee it up. And then we'll talk about schedule. So kind of like what Sarah talked about, we have a schedule, and the way our day works is there's 30-minute blocks that they have to go through, and we make sure that they see at least one activity from every company, and they have to do the career exploration and the early career panel. Those are all mandatory for every student when they go through the day. On top of that, we bundle up the whole day, and we make it so that the Science Center can take it out to those schools. And so if they miss an activity, we can do that. And for the schools that can't make it, they're able to participate in the day as well through those opportunities. So then we'll go to kind of some lessons learned and key takeaways. So these three around leadership, right? So real key takeaways for us are the Science Center. Having strong leadership at the Science Center is important, because otherwise this thing would be, organized chaos with all these organizations trying to drive. The way we organize the event. So ahead of time, just like Sarah had on her screen, we have maps, but we have what we call concierge from each one of the companies. They have a day before the event even actually happens. We walk them through, we show them where all the exhibits are, where all the stuff is happening, how the structure of the day is going to go. So they're very familiar with what happens. And then the last one there is driving organization. So, which that means you have a keynote, like BASF is that one down there in Louisiana, Rockwell is hit in Cleveland as well. And so having them be the kind of leader of the event and have all the other companies that are there. Partnerships are really important. So we've had partnerships with all of those companies. Those education extensions are really, really important because they are touching those schools every day. And something I wanted to mention, in Northeast Ohio, there's a thing called PACE, which is career exploration starting at 6th grade. So every student starts their career exploration as a 6th grader. So that's part of the reason why we sell out so quickly on manufacturing day, is because all these schools are needing opportunities for their students to see career exploration. So that's really important, and it helps us get through the day. And then community government, all that stuff is really important because they're going to uplift and talk about what we're doing for this particular day. We did this in year 1 at the Science Center, and in year 4, we're at the Great Lakes Science Center in Cleveland. We're at Discovery World in Milwaukee. We're with the Milwaukee Bucks. We're with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Cleveland Guardians, in talks of moving to Detroit as well. So the event is powerful enough that it has spread out across organizations and across states for us. So that's the P for me. And then obviously, like Sarah talked about, right-sizing the event for your audience. So in Cleveland at the Science Center, it is a prescribed event. So we only can see about 700 high school students. In Milwaukee, we focus on middle school. And then with the Guardians, it's an open invitation. And we saw almost 4,000 students at the Guardians event for that one day. And then with the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's around 2,000 students as well. So really important. The mayor of Cleveland is always in attendance, and he's doing some keynote talking about that also. And then lastly, the state of Ohio has stood up around career tech, and they have recognized that career tech, and it really supports the GDP for the state. And so we have a lot of initiatives in the state that are focused on advanced manufacturing, which all make it easier for us to pull this off in Ohio. So that's what I have. I don't know if questions came in or not. I wasn't paying attention down there. So
I don't see any yet, but we'll hold that.
yep.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Oh, Tina just asked, is this a full day?
Yes, the volunteers will tell you it's definitely a full day. The students arrive, and that's a good lesson learned. The students arrive around 9 a.m. and they leave at 2. Each company that exhibits actually pays into this. So it is totally free for every student. We cover buses, we cover food for the actual event. We cover the expenses for the Science Center to be open that day, and we cover the expenses for the staff of the event. So every company that is exhibiting actually contributes to this event. So it is free for the students, but each one of us companies, we actually kick in funds.
Thanks, Marzel. All right, so you've seen 2 really great examples, and you saw these are both community-based events. And a big reason for that is I've had a lot of questions come in from companies of, can you tell me if there are other companies in my area that are doing something similar that we can partner with? Another question, I think it came up on a past webinar, is how do you work with the schools when there starts to be this feeling of competition? Because especially if yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to answer that question. So you said, do they actually tour the manufacturing plants? It's really odd. So the answer is yes, but not at manufacturing day. So those 700 students now have access to 13, 14 companies that they didn't have access to before. And we open the invitations for after manufacturing day for them to go see those companies. So the answer is yes, but not at manufacturing day. And now they have a whole portfolio of companies that they get to go see now. So I'm sorry I didn't answer that, but yep, that's it.
No, that was perfect. And such a good point, right? Because we can have a variety of events. And as I said before, an MFG Day event doesn't just have to be on MFG Day. Anytime you are opening those minds, showing kids or teachers or whoever, it's an MFG Day event. And you can count it as one. You can register it as one. I don't care if it's in January. Let us know about it. But as I was saying earlier, especially when you're in smaller communities and maybe you only have a couple schools within your community, if there's say 5 or 6 different manufacturers who all want to bring those same students in for their MFG Day event, that's not doable by the schools in any kind of realistic manner, because they can't afford to lose that class time as well. So doing things in a community style event for MFG Day can really make a lot of sense in cutting back on that competitive type feeling, and doing it for the greater good, and knowing that these kids are hopefully coming to work somewhere in the community that's going to be better for all of the manufacturers there. So that's why I wanted to make sure you saw some good community examples. However, the other thing is it doesn't have to be that big either, right? Again, no one size fits all. So if that, these obviously take a lot of planning. The key is start somewhere, especially if you're new to MFG Day. So I wanted to just share a couple other examples with you. This is an example, and I love this one because so often we see, middle school, high school engaging in these types of events. But Gen Met up in Wisconsin brings in 2nd graders into their facility. So they're a small fabrication shop. And And they do this year round where they're constantly bringing different groups of kids from the schools in. So I loved this. Eric Eisbister, the CEO up there, sent this and shared this with us. So he talks to the kids before they actually go out on the floor. And look at these kids, like they're attentive, right? Like they want to know. These are big eyes because these kids are so young. They've never seen anything like this. And then he takes them out on the floor and they get to engage with all the different workers out in the shop and whatnot. But the other thing he talked about is how at one of the stations, the teacher that was with one of these groups, I think there was some type of measuring device out, and she was able to point and go, "Oh my gosh, measuring is important. We're learning that right now in our class in second grade," right? So making that real world connection can be incredibly important as well. It is incredibly important. A couple other things that some other companies have shared in the past. So we talk about hands-on activities, especially relative to industry, to the business. So Aon actually had their engineers create this little kit, if you will, that all of the kids come in and they build a fan. And it's small, it's not, real expensive to reproduce, but the kids have to kind of follow the manual, if you will, or the blueprint to put all the pieces together. And then you heard Sarah mention that they're going to add in some type of kind of scavenger hunt or passport this year. This is an example, and I'll send this in the follow-up, of a bingo card for a community-based event where the kids have to go around and talk to different employees and fill out their bingo board essentially through that. So there's a lot of different creative ways to get kids involved. And again, it could be 600 kids, it could be 6 kids. Start where it makes sense for you, where you can make it work for you. And then these are just a couple other examples that I pulled off of X. I still want to call it Twitter. Of just things, so you can just kind of see a visual of, more bringing kids into the plant as well. And I think what's important is we have to start engaging kids frequently, not just once every, few years or whatever it might be. They need to see and experience things throughout the year over year. And so maybe it's a community event that they go to one year, and maybe it's a plant tour that they go to the next year, and then they go to the community college to see how it all ties together. But start thinking within your community and for your facility how those things can make sense so that every kid is getting more engagements than a singular one. And I'll share all of these slides out in the follow-up email so you can look a little more closely at these then as well. So just a couple quick reminders. On mfgday.com, under the resources tab, you can find all of these different resources that are there for you. The government official toolkit will be coming soon. You can use that to share with your local, state. We're sharing it out with federal officials, but I encourage you to share it out with your federal level officials as well. There's a couple templates that have already been included in the marketing toolkit. Some more will come, including a template for like a press release. Again, I'll put some of these things in there for these activities that you can easily reuse as well. Somebody also asked earlier about the t-shirts. Our communications team is happy to help with kind of a simple design of t-shirts as well. They did the ones that you see for the BASF event. They did t-shirts for a company that just randomly reached out from California last year as well, that just wanted to have some done for their event with different logos on it. So I encourage you to, as Sarah said, keep consistency with the MFG Day logo. So we're really showing that unity across the country, but they can be tailored to have your logo, your community, whatever you want to add to it as well. So, but if there's ways that we can support with that, please let us know. Again, register your events. That's on mfgday.com as well. I won't spend a lot of time on that, but even if you don't have your event details yet, maybe you're not even sure if you're going to do an event, you can actually register with just this top portion as an official supporter of MFG Day to show that I may not be able to be directly in front of kids or whatever myself, but I'm still a part of the community that's trying to raise awareness. Keep in mind too, we've talked a little bit, you've heard about sponsoring MFG Day. Those opportunities are available. Happy to talk through those. As a matter, I'll mention that in a moment. But everything that is on our website, registering your events, that is all 100% free. You do not have to be a sponsor to get access to any of these things, or to be listed as a supporter or as a MFG Day host. If you are interested, however, in becoming an official sponsor of MFG Day, the Manufacturing Institute will actually be doing a webinar on June 12th specifically about that. Just kind of talking through what the different sponsorship levels are, what comes along with each of those. So encourage you to join that if you want to learn more. We have sponsorships that start at $1,000 and go up a ways, but there's an opportunity for everyone to get involved. So. And then our final webinar in the series will be Thursday, June 27th. That's going to talk about like marketing, messaging, how to communicate with kids even. So hopefully you'll join that join us for that one as well. But we are coming down to the end of the planning informational series. And it's time to really dig in and get to work out there in the communities. So doing a double check here. Couple questions.
Jen, if there isn't a couple questions, I wanted to bring up that we work with all the companies starting this month on what their activities are going to look like for October. So we help them with, because some companies will say, hey, we want to participate, but I'm not exactly sure how. And so we'll work, we just kind of volunteer to help them with activities that are specific to their company. So for example, we'll do lean, like there are companies that'll do lean manufacturing. They'll do stuff around product quality. They'll do all kinds of things that are different fun topics around it. PPG and Sherwin-Williams does stuff with paints and stuff like that. So we help them figure it out, and then they have until September 1 to say, okay, this is what it is, this is how it's going to look. And then we run that through the education department of the Science Center, and they will validate if it's good enough, you know, as we're going down that road to say, no, this doesn't really help connect with students. And then we don't want to duplicate activities either. So we don't want 3 companies doing some very similar activity. So just FYI, we do help people with that too.
Yeah, I was going to say one of my, I've been over to the Great Lakes event a couple times, and one of my favorite sessions I walked into, and it looks like kids are just stuffing bags. They were in groups, and they had these, you know, drawstring backpacks, and they're putting stuff in it. And I started talking to the volunteers that were in that room, and they were from a different company at that point. And essentially it was a competition where the kids were learning about kind of the assembly line process, and kind of some of those like lean principles as they were stuffing these bags that were full of hygiene items that were then going to be donated out into the community. And I thought, first, these kids are learning lessons that are applicable to our industry, but they're also giving back to their own communities. And then you think, how many of these kids are actually going to end up with one of these bags that they have actually seen, you know, their peers helping to make as well? So there's a whole lot of different ways that you can connect this with kids. So, all right, well, we are at the end of time. There's some great information that's been shared today. Thank you so much, Sarah and Marzell, for spending your time with us today, and for all that you do to inspire the next generation, but also to pay it forward with your fellow manufacturers as well. Again, follow-up email will come probably early next week, so keep an eye out for that. If you don't receive it, shoot me an email and I'll make sure you get it. But otherwise, happy planning. If you need me, you can schedule some office hours and we can have a one-on-one conversation as well. So Otherwise, everyone enjoy your day. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.